so much. Absolutely wonderful hope for those who heard the podcast. I'd love to introduce Jack from Pride365 and James from Ipsos, sharing with you that it's okay to be gay. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hot, but we'll do our best. My name's Jack Mizel, and I'm the Chief Executive and founder of Pride365. You'll notice I've got a handheld mic, and it's a problem for me because I like speaking with my hands, and I've been told that if I do, you won't be able to hear me. So please help me if you see me doing that. You'll notice that the session that we're running is called It's Okay to Be Gay in September, which, although funny and tongue-in-cheek, I'd like to explain to you where that comes from. So here we are on July the 3rd, sandwiched in between Pride Month and Pride in London, and visibility for the LGBT community is at its highest around this time. But the point about the session today is to talk about authenticity all year round, and you will find, and who knew, that it's perfectly okay to be gay in September. The theme of the conference is to be less boring. And when James and I were told this, and we realized that what we were going to be talking about was inclusion and data, we thought we might be up against it. But you'll hear by the end of this session that actually what we have to talk about is really important, fun, life-affirming, and will make each of the brands, or indeed the clients of the agencies that are represented here, much more successful. James?
Yep, just brief introduction. I'm James Oates. I lead the audience measurement and media division at Ipsos in the UK. And as Jack said, what we're really here to talk about is how we came together, began to see some opportunities to work together around this whole space. And we're going to bring that to life today as our creative story.
So by way of background, if I may just give you 3 minutes of history in terms of my journey here and Pride365. So I'm speaking to you as a straight, married man with 4 children that has lived and worked within the LGBT community for well over 30 years. And it started for me all of those years ago when my business partner at the time, Steve Anderson, and I started a publishing company called Profile Pursuit at a kitchen table, very humbly, and we were the first ever publishers of the original Pride magazine, as well as helping London, New York, Washington, and San Francisco Prides secure their early sponsors. In those times, if you mentioned the L word or the G word to companies, they'd often say things like, I'm sorry, you want me to associate my brand with them or with that? And that was deeply upsetting because not only is my business partner gay, but we'd taken this company from this kitchen table to being a public company, both in the UK and in the US, within which 60% of our management were from the LGBT community and 40% of our staff. So we were doing DE&I before it was a thing. We just brought a whole bunch of cool people together, couldn't care less who they wanted to go to bed with. It was all about the quality of their character and their ability to do the job. And who knew that if you gave people an opportunity to thrive that had been precluded from them, they could achieve great things. Very briefly, if you come forward all of these years, I'd noticed that 7 years ago, lots of brands during the month of June would drape their social media with all manner of rainbow accoutrements. They would swear undying love and fealty to the LGBT community. If their HR manager walked past their desk, maybe they'd sing Gloria Gaynor songs, who knows. But the point is that lack of authenticity and sincerity was really bothersome to me. So I approached my friends at Interpride, who are the umbrella organization of the Pride movement worldwide, and said enough. All of the research says that the community want to both work for and spend their money with organizations that are cool and authentic all year round. But I had the time and the wherewithal to do something about it. And what I wanted was an organization that was completely apolitical and non-divisive, an organization that looked at our common humanity. And we work with many brands, large and small, many of which you'll know, Hilton, Nissan, Utilita, and many others, who basically now walk the talk in terms of their authenticity. And what I'd like to do is to talk really about why James and I are here, which is to announce a strategic alliance between Pride365 and Ipsos so that brands and agencies can get the best of both authentic support and world-class data. James?
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit more about the journey that myself and Jack have been on, but fundamentally, we believe we've got world-class data. Ipsos as an organization is there to best represent society in the whole. We're not just about consumers, we're about citizens in the round, and that's at the heart of our mission. And our ongoing belief system is that we have to continue to evolve as Ipsos. We've done that all of our lives. It's the 50th anniversary of Ipsos later this year, and we're really proud about the quality of data that we produce. And so, of course, part of that authenticity is for us to continue to learn, and that's why we'll be working with Jack as well, with our Pride organization within the business and our wider teams, to understand how we can also continue to learn as an organization that feels it's already at the forefront of engaging with this community. So I'm being Ipsos-y, going to share a little bit of data, because I think it's really important to understand the context in which we're presenting. Might want to watch out, Jack. This was a big call out for me when we met Jack, was around the whole notion of don't call people out, we invite them in. And that ability to think about how you do bring people in has never been more important than ever. I don't think any of you need Ipsos data to have a sense of it doesn't feel quite right in terms of the attitude towards the LGBT community right now. And our own data actually is quite scary if you look at the drop-off in the support for companies and brands that actively promote equality right now when you look from 2024 to 2025. And I think the main message we wanted to get across today is that actually now is the moment to really stand up and to raise the flag of support. And actually the brands that cut through right now are going to be the brave ones, right? I'm really proud of the fact that Ipsos stood up straight away and said, we continue our mission no matter what's going on, because we need to put our arms around society as a whole, and we can help influence that. And that's really what we're about as a partnership, really, which is to try and ensure that people can prove that they deliver out with purpose in this whole space, and how you engage with the community credibly, whether that be in terms of internal engagement or whether that's external engagement. Because glad to say that at least half the population still believe that they want to hear about stances on inclusion and diversity, and that having a position on that still remains important, within the marketplace. Thinking about why we're in this room today and the whole notion of creativity, one of the surveys that we do is really revealing, is to ask people, do you think there should be more LGBT characters on TV and films and advertising? And I'm glad to say that at least in the UK, around 40% believe that that is true, and I do support that. But actually, what we know from our own internal databases is that just 1% of ads have a lead LGBTQ lead in those roles, which if you consider that, we're going to show you some data in a second that says around 11% of the population in our data recognize themselves in that way, you're not seeing yourself in those adverts. And we also know that actually really well-positioned, positive positioning actually has a sales uplift for brands that engage in that properly. So Jack's got a great example of how purpose, credibility, and data come together, and this was part of the inspiration for how we believed we could come together to help organizations.
So one of our partners, and we've been working with them for 5 years, are Hilton Hotels. And they're a marvelous company, but they're not short of either marketeers or budget. What's particularly interesting about the campaign that you can see behind you is that I pointed out to Hilton that 73% of the LGBT community has a fur baby, and 63% has more than one. So I suggested, how cool would it be if when a same-sex couple go to a Hilton for the stay, that not only do the couple get a gift, but so does their furry friend. So we came up with the idea of Bon Appetit. And the point is, it was incredibly successful. Why? Because it was empathetic and humorous and mindful, and it built on the credibility that Hilton have been establishing over many years through their work with us and others. And in fact, James only pointed out to me before we came to speak here that in the time that we've been speaking with them, their growth in terms of over-indexing with the community has been 20% over that period of time. So again, what we're here to demonstrate is that if businesses want to be really successful, then if you look at how you can be credible and use data to drive that credibility, it is a winning formula that we encourage everyone to adopt.
So the notion of credibility is vital to us at Ipsos. And the headline says it all, right, which is it's about us representing people and communities in our research. The way that we work with the wider industries is pivotal to the way we think. So we do a lot of research on our research, and we continue to evolve the questioning that we put in place. There's papers around how we treat gender, for example, which I can share with anybody who's interested afterwards, because that's an evolving story. But our key goal is to continue to take stock of societal changes. And actually, one of the key data pieces that sits in my team is something called Ipsos Iris, which is the data that serves UCOM, the UK Online Measurement Organisation, which is there to act as a currency for people to understand online behaviour. And so we have to have currency-level inputs that go into that. And 3 or 4 years ago, the board, which is made up of the IAB, ISBA, and the Association of Online Publishers, and our customers said, we don't have a great representation of sexual orientation in the data. Can you try and do something about it? So we put together our surveys, pulled it out, and whilst we know that this is not a homogenous group, this was the starting point of the conversation with Jack, because we got really revealing data straight away. We got really revealing data about different age groups. And actually, what we saw was that the reflection of what we thought was true in the data was very true of the qualitative side of what Jack could bring in that conversation, and that's where we began to piece the two pieces together. And I truly believe that understanding online behavior is never more important now than ever for the community that we're talking about. On average, each of us in this room today, according to our data, spends around 30% of our living time, when I say living time, awake time, that's quite a difference, online. But actually, for the gay, lesbian, and bisexual community, that's 19% more time than that online than average. So fundamentally, I always talk about if you want to understand people, you need to understand online. A really important group of people within that group to understand will be this community. And I want to talk a little bit about how you bring that community understanding to life, because it's never been more important than when considering the fact that we have such a difference in terms of penetration within the different age groups. And effectively, our data shows that 1 in 4 people now identify themselves as something other than heterosexual, which is amazing. And that was the start of the questions that we started to ask Jack about. Well, what are you seeing? What are you hearing from organizations? And on a personal note, part of the reason why I'm so supportive of trying to drive this data, this quality data, to help people make better decisions is I had 2 personal stories of where in my last organization, I found out that guys that I got on really well with had been out at university, so we're in that age group, but when they came into the workplace, they didn't feel comfortable to feel the same as they did before. And that's always been the motivating driver for me to get this data circulating so people can do better decisions around content creation as well as how you advertise. It's also a growing community, nearly 6 million people aged 15 or over that are online. And that 168 hours a month of time. So if you're thinking about where you want to engage and how you want to engage, there's 61 billion minutes worth of opportunity to really get behind these people. But actually that is equivalent to about 6 or 7 hours a day, right? So huge opportunity. And what we can do with the data sets is really bring to life the community and get rid of assumptions of behavior. So you can see here some categories online that are really important, what's less important in terms of visitation, but we can also get under the skin of what is more likely to be higher levels of engagement on. Things like events and attractions come through strongly, gaming. And the events and attractions one jumped out at me because, I'm sure many of you were either at Glastonbury or watching Glastonbury in that festival mindset. Well, actually, we know that when thinking about brands and thinking about where you want to engage with the community and getting that rounded view, 25% more likely to be on Ticketmaster, 23% more likely to be on Eventbrite. And again, practical for advertising thinking, very practical for understanding the community in the round. That notion of music, I'm not going to go through loads of these slides in too much detail, but instinctively you might say, okay, I'm interested in like their building the understanding of the community. Where can I find them in terms of their engagements and interests? 64% of the community on Spotify, 57% of the community on Apple. And why is that important? Because actually it's nearly 45% more engagement than it is for our average online audience. So hopefully you're starting to see what we're coming out from, which is building a picture of credibility around data. And then one of the things that's really come through strongly for me, and connecting with Amanda, who's here today actually, who's chair of our Pride group, is this notion of found family or chosen family. And now we begin to see that come through really strongly in our data. So many of the stats show the platforms where you might begin to think about finding people in this space. We can see where they're more likely to be visiting. But that notion of community and finding that family and how to engage actually pops really massively when we start to look at community-based sites, and those community-based sites that generate an opportunity to be, potentially speaking, in a safe environment with people of like mind, right? And it comes through more strongly here than it does for the average in our total database. So things like Quora and Reddit, Fandom, Twitch, and Discord, that's the one at the bottom there, coming through massively strongly. But the key point for me that I just wanted to say before we leave the stage in a second is, we want this to be an understanding in the round. So when you provide purpose, when you provide authenticity in your campaigns and thinking about working with teams and what you do internally within your organizations, please be also mindful that the online environment is also a safe place in terms of you see massive over-indexing on sites that are around mental health and people who might need to reach out and find someone safe to talk to. And so that ability to look in the round is hugely important in our opinion. So it is about being fully engaged to deliver to this community of people. We don't, really conscious of badging groups together like that. But the reality is that if you want to be authentic, why not understand it properly in terms of behavior? And it allows you to act with credibility and purpose and build true understanding of brands. And that allows us to then build and inform marketing engagement strategy. So I'll just let Jack finish off as we round off today.
I think I'd just like to conclude by saying that what all of our partners have in common is that they are not perfect, and nor will they ever be. But what they are is committed to a journey of incremental improvement. And so when we do an analysis of a business, what we're looking for is, are their LGBT staff treated with the same opportunity, dignity, and respect as anyone else? And secondly, what impact are they as a company making to the wider society? And all of them make a pledge, a public pledge of a commitment over a 3-year period of what they're going to do to make the lives of the community better. And I can say without fear of contradiction that in each and every case, the quality of life for everyone within the business has been enhanced, and the lives of the general public has also been enhanced by bringing people together and focusing on our common humanity rather than the things that supposedly divide us. And just a simple example where Nissan, who are a conservative Japanese-owned business, but again wanted to walk the talk, opened up their sponsorship of the London Marathon or the Great North Run series, where there's an LGBT and ally cheer zone where people can come together and enjoy and celebrate. Or even their sponsorship of Manchester City Football Club, who are Abu Dhabi owned. The facilities were then opened up for local LGBT sports people to actually go and enjoy world-class facilities. So in conclusion, this is one of these very, very special and rare occurrences where doing the right thing is life-affirming and also the most profitable thing. And I believe that the alliance between Pride365 and Ipsos will drive this to the next level. And just thank you very much for coming and listening to us.
Thank you very much.